What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Advanced Sports Analytics Show presented by RotoGrinders. I'm your host, Travis Mangone, back with my buddy Stewart over here, back to break down the slate. How's it going over there, my man?
Pretty good. Early in the morning, entering the back quarter of the season, kind of limping to the finish line, but hoping to finish strong. And excited for the week. 14 that we're on slate this weekend. So looking forward to talking through it with you.
Yeah, we don't have many more weeks left of these, so enjoy them. I always try to say this in December because football is one of my favorite times of year, and I always try to say, listen, just enjoy it. We don't got too many more days of Red Zone, hanging out with Scott Hansen, and I love Red Zone so much. So I'm excited for the last couple Sundays we got, and then we have playoffs, and then Super Bowl will be here. And it'll be an awesome time. But listen, let's dive in, Stewart. Let's talk about this slate because, listen, I think there's a lot of different ways to go. I think there's some clear-cut salary, guys that are just going to be super chalk that we should talk about. And let's see if there's any opportunities to get leverage. How's that sound?
Yeah, it works for me. We're kind of returning to that no-buy, big slate field. I think there's a lot to talk through and a lot to be excited about this week.
All righty, let's go to the first game. We got the Washington Redskins. We got the Green Bay Packers. It's got a 41.5 total, and Packers are 13-point favorites. And, man, this feels like a pretty good spot. Maybe you could, rock out with a Packers stack here. I'm a Packers fan, and I'm always in on that. But the problem I have is I don't know if the Redskins can keep the pace up enough. I'm not the biggest Haskins guy. I think he's someone that can struggle a ton. I was shocked to see that they beat the Panthers last week, so maybe I'm wrong. Stewart, what's your kind of take on this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good spot for the Packers guys. The 13-point line is a bit concerning. I still think for cash, if the Packers are going to get there and get to that big, spread number, I think they're going to have to put up some points from somewhere. And Washington's a team that we typically want to attack a wide receiver or through the air. I think Rodgers is setting up really nicely this week, and Devontae Adams, had an interesting week last week where I think a lot of people were on him, and he was really buoyed by that 2-touchdown performance. Didn't have one of these monster, 3-figure yardage outings, but the guy just has, draws Rodgers' eyes in the red zone a lot, and is kind of always going to be targeted heavily. So, I think those are two guys that you could easily start building around in cash. Adams in particular, his price has come up a little bit, but a good bit, but good matchup. Just the floor that he has, given how much of Green Bay's passing kind of exposure he's had. I like Adams a lot. You do bring up a good point with, how if we're trying to build for kind of tournaments, how might we want to bring it back with Washington. And it's tough. I think last week we did kind of see the emergence of Darius Geist, and I don't know. He got there on just insane efficiency that I can't imagine is going to be replicated on a week-to-week basis. But Green Bay is like Carolina was last week, pretty attackable on the ground, maybe not to the same extent that Carolina is, but Green Bay is allowing the third most opponent-adjusted fantasy points per rush attempt. I don't think it's a terrible spot to, try to run back one of these Washington running backs, Geis in particular. I think just trusting the youth there makes a little more sense.
One thing I want to say about Geis, Stewart, is, listen, just don't have the expectation he's putting up 30 again, right? He doesn't need to do that at that price. And sometimes we kind of get in that mindset, he's not going to have a good game. Listen, if he still puts up 16 at that price, that's pretty solid. And I think McLaurin's a good run back, but again, I don't know, just the one problem is I just really hate Haskins. I just think he feels so Luke Falk-esque, right? Just a terrible quarterback. But again, like I said, maybe I'm wrong because they ended up beating the Panthers last week and didn't do too bad.
Yeah. Another note just on possible Washington guys against Green Bay. Green Bay is very attackable against the tight end. They're allowing top 5 opponent adjusted volume and efficiency versus the tight end in terms of targets and air yards. We saw the Giants' third string tight end, Caden Smith, put up a pretty decent stat line against them last week. And Jeremy Sprinkle, who we kind of joked about last week, but he's been factoring into the pass game a little more, and I think could be kind of a deep option if you're trying to build around this game and are kind of looking for a off the board play on the Washington side to maybe give you some opportunity if you think maybe Washington's going to be able to push Green Bay and kind of keep this game a little closer than expected.
Yeah, Stewart, you can only play one lineup. You're playing it for your life. Aaron Jones or Jamal Williams this week. Who do you trust more?
I mean, Aaron Jones, I guess, just has like this, touchdown equity that I think is really quite high, and maybe, maybe not equity, but just his touchdown upside is like really high. I mean, he's still getting a lot of the goal line work. Had a good amount of goal line looks last week and just couldn't convert on any of them. So I don't know. I'm probably taking Aaron Jones. I am, happy to see his price has fallen down a good bit. So yeah, that's probably who I would lean actually. But I don't know. I mean, I think Washington typically I'm looking to attack through the air, but I guess, you do figure if it's a Green Bay 13-point favorite, like there is going to be a little more dependence on the run game than we might usually expect with them.
Yeah, Green Bay, when they get up, they just like the fourth quarter really just pound out the rock and kind of call it a day.
What about you? As kind of following that team closely, you got any?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I think their whole plan was to like kind of save Aaron Jones. Like everyone's like complaining about Aaron Jones so much, but I think their whole plan has been to like really just like in the playoffs, like push on him and lean on him. But they do like Jamal Williams. It's not like they don't like him. So I think there's a lot of upside in tournaments for Aaron Jones. Like if I was playing cash games, I would be okay with Jamal, but like in tournaments, the upside for Aaron Jones is really, really strong. And I think you don't even have to run anything back with him. Like if you just think the Packers are going to win like handedly, just playing Aaron Jones by himself is perfectly fine, right? He could fit that build of, you do that game stack with a quarterback and you have, two receivers and run it back and you just play 3 bell cow running backs. He could be one of those guys, I think, in that combo that he's pricey, but he's not Christian McCaffrey price or anything. So he's easily enough to get it.
Yeah, no, I like that. Williams' price tag I think makes him more affordable for a cash game build, but hard to argue with Jones' upside. I mean, he can get going, and Green Bay just hands him the rock and throws him the rock.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I liked your Adams caller. I thought you brought some good points with that. We're gonna move on to the next game, but before we do that, guys, please hit the like and subscribe button on the channel here for us. We would really appreciate it. It shows you guys tons of content if you subscribe to our RotoGrinders channel. We have so much football content going on. I'm sure we'll have all the playoff content. We'll have showdown stuff and tons more. Basketball season will be rolling around. Lots of good stuff going on over here at RotoGrinders. So hit the like on the video if you like what you see, and hit the subscribe if you want to check out some more content over here on rotogrinders.com. All right, let's go on to the next game. Stewart, we got the Colts. We got the Bucks 47.5 total, and this is a pretty solid game overall. We normally like to attack the Bucks, from the past game, but the problem is they've been a little bit better lately, and the Colts, their receivers aren't that good, so it's a really interesting spot. I think Paris Campbell's a guy that we might have to talk about a little bit this week, or maybe a Marcus Johnson. What do you kind of think of these cheap Colts receivers we got this week?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time keeping track of all of them in my head. They kind of just like all blend together for me, and figuring who's in, who's out. I know last week Marcus Johnson was a guy I was given a pretty strong look at. I like his kind of downfield build. Like he's one of these guys that doesn't account for historically hasn't accounted for a ton of Colts targets, but has a higher proportion of, I guess, air yards and targets, which to me, signals a guy that's going to be working downfield. And I think that's, the preferred, player profile for kind of tournament builds, a guy who can have just, at that price. I mean, if he has one big game breaking play, he's paying off his value and giving you a good chance to, finish well in tournaments. Paris Campbell coming back from injury, in the games he's played, I believe his, usage has been quite high, and with no T.Y. Hilton, no Chester Rogers, who was a guy actually I also kind of toyed with a bit last week, but ended up not playing, and fortunately so, given his injury. Definitely guys I'm interested in. I think it's just another week to try to run back Jack Doyle. His price is up a good bit, but no Ebron, no Hilton. I think Doyle's like the most established piece in that offense. And Tampa Bay also can be had at tight end. I think it's kind of one of the better positions to attack them with. So, I think, of those guys, I know it's not a receiver per se, but, of their pass catchers, Doyle would be the guy I'd key on in cash. Marcus Johnson, I think, provides some intrigue from a tournament perspective.
Yeah, so listen, I don't mind Jack Doyle. Maybe it's because I didn't play him last week, but he's a little pricey. That's the only thing, and I think I don't know. I guess it's because like I've had Jack Doyle for cheaper, and maybe that's why I'm thinking that. But a lot of these guys got some price hikes, right? Vance McDonald did. So I don't know what I'm doing with him still. And again, like I'm probably jamming in a lot of players like so far. So I don't know. If I can fall on him, like I want to, right? Because he's like a number one receiver basically there. I mean, it's only 4.6K. Relatively, it's not that pricey, but I guess like from what I'm used to for Jack Doyle, it feels pricier. But he's still a good play.
Yeah, and it's it's weird when you can like only pay up 500 more to get to like Hunter Henry. It feels like they're kind of just like from a pure kind of athletic standpoint. There are some way better guys you can get to for not that much more. I mean, Kittle's 1,300 more. He's in a weird price spot, and definitely like seeing Doyle at 4.6 is kind of some cause for concern. I mean, I don't know. He just I think his expected volume I think is pretty good. Kind of wish the game total was higher. I feel like his kind of you're going to want him to catch some touchdowns, but I hear where you come from with the price considerations.
It's because I have this other tight end for cash games in mind. When we get there, I'll talk about him. He's someone that I guess I'm hoping it happens. So, but we'll get to it. Let's talk about Paris Campbell a little bit. I think he's going to be a guy that really becomes chalky. Again, like I don't know for certain, but he practiced on Thursday. We're doing this thing Friday morning. He's 3.2K. We've seen him get a lot of targets. I know you talked about it a little bit, but I guess the question is, what ownership is too high in tournaments to play him? Because again, like we don't know what where everyone's going to go, but I think it's worth talking about. He's a 3.2K receiver, and I get he's a number 2, but when's the ownership too high when you think it's worth fading in this kind of spot?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never really been that great at like figuring out what's kind of an ownership tipping point. I don't know. I'm just. So I'm looking at I'm pulling up his volume right now, or his target market share and the few games that he's played. And he's actually played 2 of his 3 games in the absence of T.Y. Hilton. And I know there's some other pieces that are also going to be absent today that weren't in some of his previous data points.
No Ebron, no Funchess obviously hasn't been there a lot of the year. I mean, there's not a lot of people there.
Yeah, but I mean, his target market share has capped out at about 16%. And I don't know, it's just like with the Colts being kind of a down pace team, like, I don't know, I'm not convinced he's got a super high ceiling, but I guess at 3.2, I mean, you don't need him to do a whole lot. But yeah, I mean, hey, 16% for 3.2, I think is pretty good. And I definitely think there's something there to work with.
Yeah, he's definitely on Team Jemmerman. So if you're doing that, Campbell makes some sense. I don't have any interest in Brissett or even going to Marlon Mack, who's supposed to be back this week. I just think those guys, I'm off. I'm assuming you're the same.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts running back situation, Jordan Williams was high in our optimals last week, and it was just the Colts backfield's a little bit tough to figure out, and it does seem like Mack has been the one kind of piece of clarity or consistency in that backfield, but still not. And I mean, Tampa Bay is so good against the run. Like, I don't think there's much to be done there with Mack coming off an injury.
What about the Bucs then? Like Jameis Winston, he's someone that's obviously in the conversation almost every week. We know what his upside can be. The Godwin and Evans thing, if you've been doing the 50%, that hasn't worked lately. So it's tough to pick which guy it's going to be. I know OJ Howard broke out, and Colts can struggle against tight ends at times. Is that a tournament play that we can maybe look at? It's just tough to trust which Buck is going to do something, because when you think Ronald Jones is the starter, he loses the job because he can't pick up a blitz pickup, and then Peyton Barber becomes the guy. There's just a lot of guys there.
Yeah. Hey, well, look, I mean, I don't think low ownership on Bucs receivers has been, reason for concern in the past. I think it's a perfectly good spot. I don't know. I feel like, at this point, people are pretty privy to the just sheer upside of some of these Bucs receivers where, poor box score performance recently isn't probably won't scare ownership off, but like definitely not, neither of those guys, Godwin or Evans, are guys like I'm kind of systemically concerned about, thinking that there's, something wrong with them or, the Tampa Bay offense such that they can't succeed this week. Like I think it's perfectly good week to try to run them back in tournaments and potentially in cash.
Alrighty, let's go on to the next one. And this is one that we'll definitely have to touch on a ton because we got the Niners, we got the Saints, 44.5 total. But we got, the Saints offense, right? Let's start there. Michael Thomas is only 8.3K. Alvin Kamara is only 7K. I know Kamara hasn't scored a lot of touchdowns, and the Niners aren't a team that you score a ton of touchdowns on with the run game. But regression, the math, it tells me it's going to be coming soon. So talk about these two guys because, listen, I think Thomas is a guy you want to make sure you get, jamming in cash games, even in tournaments because the price is just dumb at 8.3K. And then Kamara at 7K, there's just so much upside there.
Yeah, I think I'd probably lean a little more towards Thomas. I think both are like priced really well and clearly priced for the matchup. But I don't know. I think more appropriately so than meets the eyes. San Francisco, really tough matchup, both against receivers and against pass catching running backs. I don't know. To me, Thomas feels a little more like a matchup proof kind of guy. Like, his, catch rates are just so high. He, is getting these little, 5 to 10 yard targets just on such a regular basis. I think that's kind of the route I would prefer. Like, weird stuff kind of has happened with Latavius Murray. And I think that's, someone you consider and Taysom Hill. The Saints have been kind of, not odd, because it's how they've always been, but they handle red zone work. It's a little unpredictable, and I think, to me, Kamara has a little more touchdown dependency than Thomas. Like, Thomas can, and kind of for a good chunk of the season, has been getting there with these, 10-catch, 100-yard games. Kamara, I think, to really have that, ceiling game that we're looking for, is going to need to get some touchdowns, going to need to be really effective as a pass catcher. And the 49ers' ability to limit running back efficiency per target is very strong. I think giving up second fewest adjusted fantasy points per running back target. Thomas, I think, is probably the way I'd lean just because he feels less dependent on kind of touchdown scoring.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The only guy in the Niners I have interest in is like kind of just going with George Kittle. It doesn't seem like a guy you can really, spend up on. It feels like at tight end, the prices are nice on some of these guys like Kittle and Kelsey, but they're not easy to get into your lineups on a site like a DraftKings. So I love running it back in tournaments, going Michael Thomas with Kittle and kind of calling it a day. I think that's a really nice combination. Again, this is December football. We're getting down the stretch, and this game's in a dome, right? Obviously, the total's 44.5, not as high as I was expecting, but I think he's an amazing option there.
Yeah, he's, below 6,000. I think he's at a pretty good price point. I don't have any data points readily available on the Saints versus the tight end. But I do know the Saints are just really strong against running backs and wide receivers. I wonder if there's some kind of pricing down of Kittle for the matchup when positionally it's not like as daunting of a matchup as, it is for some of the other positions. And it's San Francisco running backs, I think, at times have been really effective this year. It's just kind of hard to predict who's going to be the guy. And it's just a really tough matchup against the Saints defense. They're, a really good run stopping defense. So I think Kittle kind of makes sense there. He just has like the clearest role carved out on San Francisco where they have some good pieces on that offense, but it's just kind of Patriots-esque in that they just like divvy up their production from those kind of secondary pieces is a little bit unpredictable week to week and sometimes just gets split, fairly evenly.
Yeah, I just pulled it up now. 8.7 fantasy points per game to tight ends. That's if I'm looking real quick, it looks like around like 12. So they're pretty solid against the tight end, right? They're not a team that's leaking against them. Again, the Saints defense, they're pretty good overall. They're good against
Yeah.
everything, so they might lean on Kittle a little bit more because they want to lean on their best player because he's one of their best offensive players. Despite what Booger McFarland says about the fullback over there with the 49ers. But listen, let's head on over to the next game. We got the Carolina Panthers. We got the Atlanta Falcons. 47 total here. And, man, it's weird to see the Falcons as favorites. But they're home. Obviously, that's one of the reasons why. But let's talk about Christian McCaffrey. Is he a guy you're jamming in this week? Is the price tag too much at 10.3K?
Yeah, it's funny. I had to do a double take when I saw Atlanta, favorite as well. I mean, for me, this has been kind of one of the toughest weeks to decide on what I want to do with McCaffrey. I think in previous weeks, it's been fairly clear to either jam him in or, for the most part, jam him in. I think there's a few weeks where I just was, not playing him. It's tough. I mean, we kind of, I think, coming into the last month had Atlanta pegged as this really attackable defense, just, great matchup. And I don't know, I was looking at the numbers, and Atlanta last year in particular was a team that we just always wanted to target with running backs. Running backs were getting passes thrown to them out of the backfield at, an insane rate. And this year that they've actually improved kind of on that. They're kind of tough against the run, and they're kind of middle of the pack in terms of their efficiency and volume allowance to opposing running backs, catching passes out of the backfield. I don't know. I think in previous weeks, kind of the decision around McCaffrey has been shaped by the context of the slate, where if, we felt there were a lot of good value options that would allow us to pay up for McCaffrey, it was no sweat. And this week, at least at initial kind of glance, it does feel like there is kind of a shortage of really good value plays. Quarterback is a position that, historically I've tried to pay down for, and there are definitely some somewhat nerve-wracking plays, I guess, at the lower end, and with the consistency that some of the top guys have provided, does give me, some concern. So I don't know. I'm tending towards kind of not playing McCaffrey, but I gotta kind of see if any value opens up over the course of the weekend, and just continue to look, more closely at some of the other skill players and see if there's an opportunity to, have some cheap plays that allow me to get up to McCaffrey.
I have one in this game, Stewart. We can talk about it right now. Do you know who I'm thinking of?
Yeah, is it going to be Ian Thomas?
Ian Thomas, man, 2.5K. He's a cheap tight end. I don't know. Like I said, I thought guys like Vance McDonald and Doyle and all these other tight ends were all priced up a little bit. I still think they can have great games at those price tags. But I'm probably just not used to the price. And 2.5K just helps me jam in all the dudes, right? So I don't know. I think it's intriguing.
Yeah, no, it definitely, the price is. I thought I saw on Twitter that they were planning some sort of role share between 3 different tight ends. I don't know if there's any.
That's really bad news. That would ruin my whole build. So I just want to have Ian Thomas be the starter and call it a day.
Yeah, I think it's but yeah, I mean, hey, if you can pencil in Ian Thomas for 70% of kind of tight end snaps, at 2.5K, there's a lot you can work with, and like you said, there a number of kind of the tight ends that have been in that 3 range are priced up this week. I mean, Gesicki is a guy that has been interesting for a few weeks, and now he's all the way up at 4,000. Fant is down to 3.4, but has kind of fallen flat a little bit.
Yeah, by the way, we got I found the tweet. The tight end position will be by committee this week. So that's bad. And of course, Alex Arma always lurking there to take some touchdowns. Wouldn't be shocked if he scores one and takes it from McCaffrey this week. But
hey, at 2.5, I mean, you don't have to get that much out of him, and he does kind of there's so few really cheap tight end options in play. A build around a 2.5 Ian Thomas just gives you access to a whole lot more than other people are going to be able to build if they're paying up for one of the 3 to 4, or even paying, all the way up at tight end. So
for sure. Any interest in DJ Moore here? His I was listening to one show, I forgot which one it was. They're talking about his median share is 10, which is crazy to think on a guy like DJ Moore. He's been awesome this year. Is he someone worth willing to pay for against the Falcons?
His median share in targets is 10.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I forget the exact number, but it's crazy how good he's been this year, though.
Yeah, no, it really has. I mean, his price is up, but I think it's warranted. I mean, so I have him in 2019. It's a mean, I guess, or just an average of the entire season at 25% of targets. That 10 feels a bit low, but
No, I think it was like I forget what the number was. It wasn't his share, but it was just crazy, the number. It's not the average that he's getting, it's his median. Like, it's just crazy to think.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, he's been absolutely crushing it. Just getting a ton of volume, a ton of efficiency as well. He actually per target leads Carolina wide receivers, and we've always thought that, Curtis Samuel was this.
He was supposed to break out and be amazing. And he's been good, but DJ Moore has really stolen the show.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, the price is a bit rich for me. I think in tournaments, just the upside that Moore provides is definitely in play. I think for cash, it just feels like a bit steep of a price hike. But yeah, I mean, hard to argue with the production that Moore's been putting on this year. And I don't know, just Kyle Allen, I guess he's been able to do it in spite of Kyle Allen, but I do have concerns that just Allen's total and incompetence is going to catch up with this Carolina offense. We've already seen it, I guess, catch up with McCaffrey a little bit in the last couple of weeks. Maybe I'm just kind of pulling small sample here, but yeah, I don't know. It is pause for some concern, but yeah.
Let's talk about the Falcons side, because there's some stuff to talk about. I think the Julio Jones, right? If you can get him low owned, I think he's a phenomenal tournament play. Again, this is one of the dome games, right? We have a lot of pretty good games to start off this slate. And this is one of the dome games. So obviously you have to have some intrigue with this. Ridley's had a really nice target share. I know his price is pricier than normal, but still 6.7K. I still think there's some opportunity. The problem is got Austin Hooper back and Devontae Freeman are back, right? That's one of the issues here. And Freeman, I think, is someone that people are going to consider. The Panthers, they've allowed a touchdown in 9 straight games to running backs, and Devontae Freeman's there. Just the problem is, will they be going Hill and Barner instead, just to mix in by committee?
Yeah, I don't have really any insight to what that share is going to look like. I mean, Carolina is a team historically we've really wanted to attack with running backs. It seems like every week, it doesn't matter who they're facing, whether it's ancient Adrian Peterson last week or I forget, whatever. And yeah, Freeman, I mean, the price is quite low on him. And, I'm also intrigued by just the work that he gets in the passing game. At 5'4", I mean, he is one of those guys that, you could use to help get to Christian McCaffrey. So I'm really intrigued by Freeman in cash. I just think it's a great matchup. I want to continue to follow the news in terms of if there's any, information that comes out about some sort of, running back by committee or share of duties back there. But if Devontae Freeman's in his usual role, I mean, I think it's a really great spot for him. And seeing Carolina Atlanta, favored by 3, you would think sets up pretty well for Freeman. So that's a spot I'm really interested in this week.
Agreed. Let's go over to the next game. We got the Lions, we got the Vikings, and this is a 43.5 total. And if Dalvin Cook somehow sits, Madison becomes chalk and someone that you definitely want to get exposure to, but it sounds like he's going to play through that injury he suffered on Monday night. I don't know what else to really do with this game, though, Stewart. I mean, they do have a huge implied total, right? The Vikings 28.25. So you expect them to put up some points. So is Minnesota a team you want to get a lot of exposure
to? Yeah, I mean, if Dalvin Cook plays, like Madison, just plug and play. I mean, Detroit is so bad against the run and so bad against they're really actually far worse at defending running backs, catching the ball out of the backfield, which Dalvin Cook's bread and butter. Like, I feel like if there wasn't this concern about, his injury, and from what I've been hearing, it's kind of like a pain tolerance thing. Like, to me, that's a real risk where, if Minnesota favored at 13 points just gets up huge and Dalvin Cook's in pain, like why would, they run him out there? So it's like, if there was none of this, injury kind of attachment, like Dalvin Cook would be in a total smash spot.
He'd be the chalk, right? Like, we'd be talking about him over McCaffrey. I think that'd
sure.
be a conversation 100%. So he still is someone to consider in tournaments, but yeah, like there's risk because of the pain, like you said.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of risk with him in cash, but in tournaments, like, he has, tremendous upside in this game, and I think is definitely worth tournament consideration because, and I think if you're playing him in tournaments, you really, really want to get some guys on the Detroit side, because really the game flow that's going to push Dalvin Cook to playing kind of his maximum role is Detroit keeping it close. So, probably like running it back with Galladay or Marvin Jones. I don't know. Even doing like kind of a Detroit centric stack and then running Dalvin Cook on the other side would be, I think, an interesting tournament wrinkle. But yeah, I think in cash, like I'm going to want to stay away from Cook just because of the injury risk. I also just had an interesting note about both teams are like really, interesting against the tight end. And I know you're talking about how there's a lack of cheap options at tight end, and Irv Smith's a guy who kind of just popped onto my radar a little bit. But both teams have very interesting kind of DVP metrics against tight end. Detroit's allowing the second most fantasy points per tight end target adjusted for opponent, but allowing the lowest tight end market share. Minnesota's allowing the fewest fantasy points per tight end target, but allowing the highest tight end market share. So like Detroit allowing super high efficiency, super low volume to tight end. Minnesota allowing super low efficiency, super high volume. I don't really know what to like. I don't know that I really have even a prescription for like what the proper interpretation of that is, but I think it's kind of interesting. So I don't know, maybe some of these, I don't know. Hawkinson has done like nothing since that week 1 break.
Yeah, because that didn't matter. It was just because it was the Cardinals.
That's true.
So we had to like cancel that week out. Like, if you and I were at tight end against the Cardinals, we could get a touchdown. It sounds like.
Yeah, that is a good point. I don't know. So maybe some of these Minnesota, particularly Irv Smith, I think Kyle Rudolph at 4.4 seems a bit pricey. He's just so touchdown dependent, but Irv Smith at 3.3, like, he's on the field. He gets a decent amount of looks for a second string tight end. Olabisi Johnson, also another super cheap guy. Like, Minnesota's going to find a way to get its points. It's a team, I'm pretty interested in, and like outside of Cook, they're not like super priced up. Outside of Cook and Cousins, I guess they're not super priced up. And Cousins is a guy we actually didn't even talk about, but like he's priced up. But I think the matchup's so good for him. And with quarterbacks, I'm fairly inclined to try to anchor to just like raw projected point total for the team. Cousins, I think, is in a great spot. Some concerns, like Minnesota in the past has gone super run heavy when they're up big. But I think there's considerable intrigue for Cousins for me in tournaments and in cash. We didn't really talk about him much, but is that something you're interested in, or is it like, you just pay up more to get to Lamar?
I can pay 6-7 for him, or I can pay for the next quarterback we have in the next game, who I think is better at 6.5, Deshaun Watson.
Okay, yeah, fair too.
I don't know. Do you have anything else in this game you want to talk on, or you want to talk about that now?
Nope, no, I'm ready to move on.
All right, yeah, like I want to talk about Deshaun Watson because I think he's an amazing play at 6.5, right? It's not the best week. The quarterback pricing is a little wonky. A guy like Dalvin Hodges costs more than Kyler Murray, which is one of those funny things that we'll get to when we get to that game. But there's just not a lot of good pricing on guys. And Watson at 6.5 felt good. 26 implied total there against the Broncos. He is rushing upside as well. I'm expecting him to be a part of most of the touchdowns. So I don't know. I like him. And again, it's a dome, right? Playing in Houston's a good spot too for weather. So that's my favorite play in this game. And that's all I'm really like super interested in. I think Will Fuller, you could go at 5.5, or maybe Kenny Stills at 3.7. Could be a guy to consider as well. But I don't know. That's the only thing I really like in this game. So I'll give you the floor to talk about the rest. But I just like Watson a ton.
Yeah, I agree. It's does feel like a pretty efficient quarterback pricing scheme this week, and Watson maybe is the one hole or one of the holes we could pick in terms of him. Yeah, the price just doesn't quite make sense for him. It is a tough matchup, for Watson, but at 6.5, like I feel like the price is down.
Yeah, it feels weird paying for a quarterback, right? In a 42.5 implied total.
Yeah, I mean, but at 9-point favorites, I mean, I think Houston's implied total isn't super low.
26.
I mean, Hopkins intrigues me. I'm sure he'll get a lot of Chris Harris, but I don't know, his share of targets seems pretty stable, and 7.4 is a decent price tag on him. So that's a guy I'm interested in. We had talked a little bit about cheap tight ends and Noah Fant. He's a guy I'm probably going to stay away from this week. The return of Jeff Hireman last week, I don't think was insignificant. I mean, Hireman got a decent amount of looks. He actually might have, I believe, out-targeted Fant last week, and Houston is just really good against the tight end. I think they're one of the top teams one of the bottom teams in terms of efficiency allowed and volume allowed at the position. So intriguing price tag for Fant, but I don't know. I'm not probably will be avoiding him. Not really considering him in cash, just given how tough the matchup is. So yeah, mostly looking at the Houston side, and still, as you mentioned as well, good price point. Should be working out of the slot a lot. I think is a interesting receiving option as well.
Yeah, the one guy you could run it back with is Courtland Sutton. If you want to correlate it up, that'd be the guy I'd go to. But again, I don't trust Locke, and I don't know. I don't know. It's just tough. I don't like this game that much.
Yeah, I think Sutton, just given his price point, is a little tough from a medium projection standpoint. But I mean, his volume share has been huge since the departure of Emmanuel Sanders, and I think if you're attacking this game in kind of tournaments and looking for Houston's, a Denver player to run it back with, Courtland Sutton, probably, the only sensible piece. He's been awesome lately and been getting a ton of looks.
All righty. Before we go on and talk about Lamar Jackson, this year's likely MVP, you guys be our MVP and hit the like and subscribe button for us on the YouTube channel. We would really, really appreciate that. And we'll get right into the next game. We got the Ravens, we got the Bills, and this game's got some weather, Stewart. I know we're doing this Friday morning, and I don't want to panic. It's weather. It's not that big of a deal. We'll worry about it Sunday. But 15 to 20 mile per hour winds is what we're looking like. And then, I don't know. I guess we have to watch closer to game time. Kevin Roth has it at orange, so check that out. But 15 to 20 mile per hour winds. And Lamar Jackson, I know he cannot be the most accurate guy at times, but his rushing upside is amazing. And if the weather's a problem and Lamar's rushing and maybe it's a 100-yard rushing bonus, there's just so much upside. And I don't think he's priced up enough, right? That's one of the problems here. I don't think DraftKings priced him where they should have. What do you think about him on this slate?
Yeah, I mean, I think conventionally Buffalo's a really tough team against the quarterback, allowing, few fantasy points per pass attempt. But the one spot they can be had is on the run, on the ground. I mean, I would just treat Lamar Jackson like a running back, and Buffalo's, allowing the 5th most fantasy points per running back rush attempt. Like, I think, Lamar Jackson's priced up, but I think it's, or he's priced up, but, I would say there, his price has somewhat been capped just by a perceived tough matchup. But I don't know. I think it's a good spot for him again. I mean, I don't think there's been a bad spot for Lamar this year. The question is, can you fit him in your lineup? And I think it's, if you're interested in McCaffrey, it's going to be tough to go Lamar and McCaffrey without, really dumpster diving in some other places. But I don't know. I think for me, I might prioritize Lamar over McCaffrey. But, we did talk about just the last game, Watson at 900 cheaper, and I think does a lot, offers a lot of what Lamar offers, maybe not the sheer yardage upside that Lamar offers, and probably, a decreased touchdown equity as well. But I mean, yeah, I think it's a good spot for Lamar, and what might be perceived as a bad quarterback matchup. I don't know what DraftKings little versus opponent number is. I'm sure it's pretty low against quarterback, but I mean, to me, Lamar is just has been matchup independent this year, and I think Buffalo in particular actually is a more favorable matchup for Lamar in this kind of running back slot. This hybrid quarterback that he is. It's just a better matchup than meets the eyes.
Yeah, I still think there's a lot of upside in tournaments still at 7-4, right? I still think you can go to him, and you don't have to run it back with anyone, right? That's kind of the beauty of playing Lamar too. You don't have to figure out who you're running it back with. You can just play him by yourself if you want to.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, his his touchdown, his rushing, touchdown and rushing yardage upside just I think makes him a perfectly viable naked play, and that's probably how I would approach him this week in tournaments. Like I said, Buffalo is really tough against quarterbacks and receivers in the air. And, Marquise Brown is like kind of a prime Lamar stacking candidate, but you just imagine he's going to see a lot of Tre'Davious White. I think the Buffalo defense is going to be softer against the run than it is the pass. So I think it's probably a weekend where I'm, more interested in running Lamar naked than trying to stack him up with one of his receivers.
Okay, well, what about the Bills? I think it's a good spot just to X this team out. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore's, aside from that San Francisco game last week, has kind of just been crushing their spread number. I think it might be a reasonable week to try to build around that assumption again. Baltimore's just a really tough defense. Like, it's hard to be too excited to play guys against them. I think the area that they're most soft is against the run. But I don't know, at 5'7", Devin Singletary, that just seems like a really expensive price tag. It's not, I think, an issue I'm too interested in trying to force this week. So yeah, probably just like run Lamar naked and then just build around some other stacks, with your skill players.
All right, let's go to the next game. We got the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets. This is a 45.5 total here. And this is going to be frustrating because if you're watching the red zone, they're not going to go to this game much because it's a game that doesn't matter. But for DFS players, this thing matters, right? This is one of the games we're definitely going to want to talk about a ton because we got a lot of opportunity here. 45.5 total here. Fitzpatrick, he's priced up at 6K, but we got Patrick Laird. He's someone that has gotten some talk over the past few weeks. Don't know if he's going to end up becoming chalky. I don't think it's going to happen. Devontae Parker's priced up now a little bit, but his targets have been incredible. I have to consider him. Talk about this Dolphins side because, the Jets, they got a little bit of a pass funnel there, and there's some guys that can catch the ball on the Dolphins side.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I want to start with the New York side, just because Miami has been a team that we can just attack with quarterback, I think, really all year. And I don't know, Darnold to me is an interesting piece. He's, I don't know, been kind of up and down this year, but Miami has been a really, really good medicine for kind of ailing quarterbacks. And I think, at 6,000, like it's not the most, competitive price point, but I also don't think it's, an insane, price hike on him. I think Darnold at 6 is pretty interesting and, wanting to pair, if we're, interested in pairing him with New York receivers, like Robbie Anderson's always a guy who's in play in tournaments for his kind of big play ability, but I don't think is too trustworthy for cash. I mean, Jamison Crowder at 5'3", I think has a really nice price tag on him. Seems to be kind of Darnold, his preferred target. And I think just has a really nice floor given his, his scoring through kind of superior volume, even if it's kind of low, short passing routes at kind of a high, catch probability. Like I think Jamison Crowder is an interesting piece for cash. Not sure that he holds too much tournament intrigue. Just given his kind of, doesn't have like a ton of kind of big play potential in this role that he's in. Those are the guys that I would be looking at on the New York side. Le'Veon Bell, I think, is kind of, he just doesn't appear to have any explosiveness left. His his role with the team his use in the offense has kind of been in flux the last couple of weeks. So I'm not too interested in going there.
Yeah, they're just mixing in Powell and Montgomery too much. And I played Bell last week. I thought maybe I'd be able to get away with it. And I thought the game before when they blew him out, his snap count was just because of the blowout, and he was on pace for the normal 80%, but it didn't end up happening.
Yeah, he was in a lot of he was one of the higher projected value running backs in our system, and I just made kind of a subjective call to go up to Saquon, which obviously was awful too. So I don't. Bell's just like a guy I can't really see myself getting behind this week. The Dolphin side is intriguing. I mean, Devontae Parker has been awesome this week. I mean, he's kind of in this DJ Moore category where it's just like the guy's been great, and I've been really interested in playing him. Obviously, when he was down at in the 4K range, and even when he was in the 5, but at what is he at, like 6'9", 6'7", something like that?
He's 6'9", which it's pricier, but again, like he's one of those guys just cranking out double-digit targets. It feels like every single week.
Yep, and New York's a team we want to attack a receiver. They're allowing receivers to get downfield, I think, at a really high rate, allowing one of the highest air yard shares to opposing receivers. And ever since Preston Williams hit the IR, I think Devontae Parker has really ascended even more so into kind of this, elite usage category. So I think definitely worth a look. I mean, this game to me has some really interesting tournament pieces between the quarterbacks and some of the receivers we've been talking about. Definitely interesting in tournaments. I think just given the price hike on a guy like Parker, like Crowder, to me is the most intriguing cash piece. But
his price is great, by the way. I mean, he's been amazing all season. He's had 2 bad weeks. I think this is a week where it ticks back up, and he has a really solid outing.
Yeah, and Patrick Laird, I think, is an intriguing piece. I mean, I think his New York's really tough against running backs on the ground, and that's kind of Laird's area of weakness. But they're actually pretty exposed. They are allowing elevated running back targets, allowing the adjusted running back target rate or market share rather at kind of the 3rd highest clip, and that's kind of like where Patrick Laird's value is going to lie as a pass catching running back. I think the interest there is fairly warranted. Like, all jokes aside, New York's a team that is going to be effective in stopping the run, but can be had by pass catching running backs, and that's what Laird's build is. And I think he's in a pretty decent spot. And at 4.2, all it takes is 5 catches for 40 or so yards. If you get a touchdown, I mean, that'd be awesome. Like, I think Laird's fully in play this week.
All righty, let's go over to the next game. We got the Bengals, we got the Browns, 41.5 total here. And this is tough. John Ross, he's back on the Bengals side. So I think this Bengals side has got too many guys there now, and I don't love that spot. But the Browns, they got a 24.25 implied total. Guys like Chubb and Hunt, they're obviously, in great spots here against this terrible Bengals run defense. What do you think here, Stewart? How much you like here in this 41.5 total?
I mean, Cincinnati, we definitely want to attack on the ground, and with running backs through the air, they're really allowing a really high, per target running back efficiency. The issue is the Cleveland guys are really priced up this week. I think DraftKings has done a pretty good job of responding with their pricing, and I don't know, that's kind of been the story of, it feels like, a number of guys this week. It's like we really like the plays, from kind of a raw total, but DraftKings has done a good job of pricing them up and making it, a real decision to be made. I don't know. I think it's, what is it, 6.6, I think, on Hunt. To me, that feels pretty steep, given a guy who, doesn't have kind of the bell cow role. I'm so much more interested in paying up for a guy like Leonard Fournette, or paying down for a guy like Freeman. Nick Chubb, I think, is enticing in tournaments. You figure he's likely to reach his ceiling game if Cleveland just blows out Cincinnati and they just kind of divert to the run in a big way. And I mean, it's a great spot for Chubb. The price is a bit steep, but I think he is worth some consideration just on account of such a great matchup for tournaments. I think in cash, it's going to be pretty hard to plug him in there, and it would definitely, prevent you from going up to a guy like McCaffrey, or if you want to take the Dalvin Cook route. So I'm not sure that these Cleveland guys carry too much, consideration for me in cash given their price hikes.
Yeah, I think Odell's got some turn upside at 6'3", but this situation's just an ugly one with what's going on there. He talks of him not wanting to be there and everything. Just think it's a good spot we stay away from for now. Let's go to the next thing. We got the Chargers. We have the Jaguars 43 total here, Stewart. And listen, I like some of these plays here. It wasn't a game. Like, if this was on any other slate, I probably wouldn't be, getting excited about it. But again, like, this isn't a slate just littered with like 50 totals. We have a 43 total here. And I think Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, they're amazing plays. I think with Gardner Minshew back with DJ Chark, D.D. Westbrook's got a good price. I mean, there's so many routes I feel like I can go here. Talk to me about this game.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like every slate there is like one kind of low total game that we really want to key on. And for me, this feels like it's it. I mean, the Chargers, I was playing them like their defense a lot early in the season. They were a team that, we thought could generate a lot of pressure. They've been like a patently bad defense this year, and Jacksonville has been even worse. I mean, one of the worst defenses in the league, especially since the departure of Jalen Ramsey. So starting with attacking Jacksonville with the Chargers side, I mean, Jacksonville is atrocious against the run. I think they are in a league of their own with Carolina in terms of just ineffectiveness against running backs on the ground. And yeah, I mean, Melvin Gordon has just kind of continued to get better as the season goes on, and the price is up a little bit for him. But I think he's definitely in play in tournaments. Just given the price point, I'm not sure how much cash consideration he's going to warrant for me, but I think he's in a great spot. And Jacksonville also has been attackable at wide receiver since the departure of Ramsey. The guy I'm pretty interested in is Mike Williams. I mean, his price, I think, is really good this week. I think he's been on just a touchdown drought all year. You think there maybe is some positive regression there. But, even if he doesn't get the touchdowns, like his volume, I think, is really quite superior for guys priced in that range. I think there are a few players in that range that have a higher target floor. So those for me are the two guys I'm really keying in on the Charger side. And I think we also mentioned Hunter Henry at the top of the show. I mean, he's priced quite cheaply for such a good matchup against Jacksonville. I mean, 5-1 feels like a pretty good value. So I think it's like a great matchup for some of these Chargers guys. And aside from Gordon, like they haven't really seen a huge price bump. So I think there's a lot to be excited about on the Chargers side.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm with you on that. The one thing I'll ask, and I could be overreacting, do you worry Phillip Rivers gets benched for Tyrod if he's really bad? It just like changes the whole like situation of the offense and who gets the opportunities?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's been really bad, and it feels like it's about that time.
It's a tough question. Listen, I don't want to be so. I don't think we can kind of like project for what's going to happen, but it's just something. I'd be worried about doing like a Phillip Rivers stack, I'd say, in tournaments, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, Phillip Rivers guy, I'm staying away from completely. I mean, how you have any thoughts on like what a switch to Tyrod, like who would that impact? I mean, what's kind of the fallout there? Seems like it could hurt Gordon, right? Just because it's another, potential red zone rushing option.
Yeah, I think it would maybe hurt Gordon a little bit, and then maybe Mike Williams with maybe he's not getting the long ball as much. But I'm trying to think back of like Tyrod. I think he tried. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember Tyrod exactly. How he was with the deep ball and whatnot. But I just think like this game looks appealing to like go Phillip Rivers as like a tournament play. I don't know. I just think it's tough to stomach. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know you talked about Fournette a little bit. Is DJ Chark intriguing for your DD? I think these guys are really nice price tags, and we got Gardner Minshew back there. So maybe Minshew and Chark get some magic going again.
Yeah, I don't know. I think on the Jacksonville side, I'm mostly just focusing on Fournette. I mean, Minshew, I don't have any numbers in front of me as far as like how those guys performed with Minshew. I think just his scrambling style maybe could could limit some of the upside for some of these Jacksonville receivers. I mean, D.D. Westbrook, he's up a little bit at 5'2", when I think he was like really intriguing when he was down in the fours. I don't know, probably just a Fournette game for me on the Jacksonville side. And that's where I think Los Angeles' kind of biggest deficiency is against the run and also to pass catching running backs. So I think for me, Fournette is going to be the Jacksonville piece. I'm kind of building around. Don't have too many thoughts on some of the other Jacksonville peripheral pieces.
Yeah, I'm with you on Fournette, though. I think he's someone that early in the week I wasn't as excited about, but that volume and everything is just too good to pass up. Let's go on to the next one. We got the Steelers. We got the Cardinals, 43.5 total. And I don't know what to do with this game. I don't think it's that great of one because, listen, all these Steelers are priced up, right? That's one of the problems. I would love attacking the Cardinals, but the Steelers, they all have some really tough price tags. I guess Juju at 6'5" is intriguing. Coming off the injury, though, is one of the issues. And then on the Cardinals side, I guess Christian Kirk's price at 5'2" is really nice. But again, like Kyler, he was a little bit of a problem last week. You saw he seemed like he was fine last week watching the game. But I don't know, right? Like Christian Kirk just didn't get a ton of opportunity. This game in general is just not comfortable. Like I can't figure out what to do here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great matchup for the Pittsburgh guys, particularly Vance McDonald. But we saw DraftKings really move up the price on McDonald all the way up to 4.3. And just for a guy who hasn't really been like that, just hasn't been garnering a ton of volume. And like when he does, I mean, it's just so low efficiency with that volume that he gets. I don't know. I mean, I get, how good of a matchup it is for tight ends, but Vance McDonald at 4.3. I don't know. That's a price tag I can really stomach. I'd be far more inclined to go up to Doyle, up to Henry, down to Gesicki, all the way down to like Thomas or, an Irv Smith. I don't know that I can really talk myself into Vance McDonald.
I think if you fall on him in a build, like if you're building teams and you fall on him, it's fine. But it's like I said, the prices, if you like attacking this matchup and you have all season, you're going to like the ownership, right? Because his ownership's not going to be, insanely high. Because I think people are just going to go to Doyle over Vance, right? You would assume.
Yeah, probably. I mean, my natural inclination, like even if I fall to 4.3 at tight end, I'd almost rather go down to Gesicki. But yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not sure. It's an interesting, I think social experiment of, how infatuated is the public really with this Arizona tight end matchup? Because I think the Doyle 4.3 is probably the most aggressive pricing per player talent that we've seen in this matchup all year. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how ownership shakes out. I don't know. I can't see ownership being too high on him, but we shall see. The one Pittsburgh guy that maybe didn't get a huge price hike was Deontay Johnson. I mean, at 4.3, he's quite cheap. If Juju returns, there's some fallout there. But yeah, I mean, at 4.3, just a great matchup. Arizona has been bad defense playing at a fast pace that should figure to be good for, these Pittsburgh receivers. And at 4.3, I mean, Deontay Johnson's kind of the guy I'm most interested in on that Pittsburgh side.
All right. Any interest on the Cardinals side, or you want to move on to the next game?
Not really. I mean, Pittsburgh's just a really tough defense, and we haven't seemed to, gotten a price reduction. Well, I guess we did on Kyler, and Kirk's down a decent bit. I mean, yeah, Kirk's at a pretty good price point. I'm sure he'll just be seeing a lot of Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think, I'm more intrigued with a similarly priced Jamison Crowder. or going down to like a Deontay Johnson or Mike Williams. I just think Kirk's, some of the upside he's flashed in the past is unlikely to be achieved against this Pittsburgh defense. But I don't know. Brandon's talked at length about Christian Kirk, and he does have like an ideal tournament build given his a high upside. So I think worth some consideration in tournaments, but probably a guy I will not be considering too much in cash.
All right, let's go to the next game. And it's a 47.5 total here. We got the Titans. We have the Raiders. And Stewart, like, this is one of the games of the week, shockingly, on this big slate. Talk about this game.
Yeah. Derrick Henry has been a monster the last few weeks, and his price is way up. Kind of been the story of this slate, I think, is just like really good guys getting appropriate price hikes. Oakland historically is a team, we want to attack through the air, both with the quarterback, with receivers, and they're also a pretty attackable spot at running backs through the air. The issue is that that's not Derrick Henry's forte, and he's not like a guy I'm interested in playing because he's got a favorable pass catching matchup. I want to find him in a spot with a favorable running matchup, and Oakland's not really that. They're a team that's really ineffective at stopping the pass. Ryan Tannehill is, priced down, or is, one of these kind of low end quarterbacks that I think has a pretty good floor for cash consideration. I just think given the Tennessee's kind of propensity to just pound Derrick Henry, definitely think it limits his upside. But from a floor perspective, I think he's a pretty viable cash play and allows you to get up at some of the other positions. Got a really good matchup. Oakland also, I have a note, is allowing the most adjusted fantasy points per quarterback scramble, which I think is pretty decent, defensive attribute for Ryan Tannehill. He's a guy who at times has kind of sought to get out of the pocket and create with his legs. So, I think an interesting spot from that perspective for Tannehill. The Oakland side, I think, Hunter Renfrow is expected to be out, and I do think that, isn't an insignificant injury. It kind of opened. Renfrow actually has been garnering a decent amount of targets the past few weeks, and I think, could open up some volume for a guy like Waller, who has been pretty cold lately, but we could see him get back going. 5'8" feels a bit steep for him, given his, I guess, malaise in production lately. But I think there's opportunity there on the Oakland side for sure. I think probably though I'm just a little more interested in attacking with the Tennessee side, given the matchup.
Yeah, one guy I want to talk on is Derek Carr, 5K. We talked about pricing, a lot of guys getting price bumps this week, but, he's at a 5K, and we like to attack the Titans through the air. You talked about Waller. He's a good option. What do you think of Derek Carr at 5K?
Yeah, super, super cheap, and like you said, Titans are attackable through the air. He's just a guy, one of the more uncomfortable players to play.
For sure. I don't feel good about it, but they said like this game it's a 47.5 total. It's weird to think that this is one of the higher totals of the slate, but it is. Like, we're here. So I don't know. It's crazy. And he's just 5K, and a lot of the quarterback pricing has gotten priced up, right? You see Fitzpatrick is 6K, right? You see Tannehill is 5'8". Like, a lot of these guys that were normally 5'3" or 5'2", they're not at that spot. And Carr's down at 5K in a pretty, awesome spot, but a good spot to attack in the air.
Yeah, no, he is kind of in a price tier of his own. Are you thinking more like cash with him, or?
Yeah, I think you could do it in cash, but I think you can do it in tournaments too. We have some cheapish options here, right? Like, you can go Carr, you can go Waller, and then run it back with like an AJ Brown or a Corey Davis, and then jam in some really good plays. Like, it's definitely a game stack that I think you can do that's priced cheap too as well, and you can get good plays around it.
Yeah, it's Corey Davis. I think is a good call actually on the Tennessee side. His price is way down. He's been, when healthy, pretty ineffective this year, but cheap price, and the volume has been there. He just hasn't been capitalizing on it. All right, cool. Well, yeah, I think a spot to consider for sure, and I'll kind of give a closer look at some of these Oakland receivers. Kind of decide what to do there.
It's like defense is like, it's still a game, right? Like we're still all playing a game, and like the pricing on these guys is so cheap that it gives you that ability to get in those really good plays. And they did a really good job of pricing some spots, right? We just talked about the Steelers and Cardinals game. Like they priced those guys up, and this game just feels like the pricing, not that it's completely off, like, right, but there's some guys that are just cheaper for what they should be. And even Zay Jones, right? If you're just looking for like a deep dart tournament throw, I mean, he's been getting some work at 3-4. Again, just trying to find some cheap options to be able to jam in the really good plays.
Yeah. Zay Jones, interesting call. I was playing a good amount of him early on in the season when he was with Buffalo because he was a really good red zone target for Buffalo last year. I'm not really sure if that's carried over with him to Oakland, but an intriguing guy, cheaply priced, and with Renfrow out, that he could be one of the primary beneficiaries. So I like that Zay Jones call.
Yeah. All right. Real quick, let me look. I'm pulling up Zay Jones's snaps. I'm just curious what he got last week. I mean, this is the stuff we're doing right now here. Let's see. He got 69% of the snaps. The week before he got 90. So again, we're looking for cheap guys, right? We're trying to get a little creative with these cheap receivers. And he could be a pivot off of a Paris Campbell, right? If he has all that ownership. So there you go. Let's go on to the last one. And typically a game that you would be excited about, you would think is a shootout, but with how good the Patriots defense is, with how bad Tom Brady has been, there's some concern, right? 48.5 total. Chiefs have always been in like really high totals this season. They've all been in the 50s, and this one's lower. And again, it's just a tough spot because we have the Patriots defense, which is really good. We have the Chiefs offense, which is, really good. Something's got to give, Stewart. So how are you approaching this game? Because I'm kind of lost.
Yeah, I was surprised to see this game, as high as it is. I thought, a similarly good matchup of like good offense versus good defense was New Orleans, San Francisco. And that total to me, like, feels more in line with how I'm expecting this game to run. New England, super tough defense against quarterbacks, both through the air and at limiting their scramble attempts and the efficiency per scramble, which actually has been like, one area where I think Patrick Mahomes has, for me, exceeded expectations a little bit this year. Like his involvement as a scrambler and as kind of a runner by design has, I think, been a little bit noteworthy to see that New England is not only tough at defending quarterback pass attempts, but also at defending quarterbacks attempt to get involved in the run game is, concerning for Mahomes. And not really an area I'm too interested in attacking. The one area I think where I do tend to try to attack New England is at tight end. It's kind of, they're extremely good against quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. Tight end is the one spot where they do allow a little bit of an elevated, efficiency and volume.
Here's the problem, Stuart. Kelsey is their weapon, right? Like Kelsey's the guy, and Belichick has been really good at stopping, like, the best, weapon that they go to and whatnot. And Kelsey hasn't had that much success against the Patriots. So what do you kind of think of that angle? Does that concern you? Because again, I think most teams, their weapon's not their tight end, right? So I think maybe digging in, like if you're looking at this game and trying to figure out what to do with Kelsey, maybe this is something I'll do off air too, like digging in and seeing how Belichick does against teams that have really good tight ends, right? Like the George Kittles, the Kelseys of the world.
Yeah. That's and I will have to spend far more time to look into that. I mean, you don't think though, like Belichick will be scheming more to contain Tyreek Hill?
He could. It's just I'm just trying to think. Like I know I saw some numbers on Kelsey, not having as much success against the Patriots, but I get exactly what you're saying. It's tough, right? Tough to decide what to do because they have so many weapons, obviously.
Yeah, man, a guy we talked about last week is having good like median projection, but us just having little interest in Sammy Watkins, and I mean he's super cheap again this week, but I feel like he just kind of continuously falls into, for me, this category of just like he just can't be trusted. I mean his his volume is kind of constantly in flux, and the one thing that hasn't been in flux as of late has just been his efficiency per opportunity. It's just been consistently low. So yeah, I mean, Kansas City is just given the matchup and their kind of tendency to spread the ball around. And I don't know, it's not an area I'm too interested in attacking, even given the high total. To me, just that total feels pretty high. Like you said, something has to give, whether it's Kansas City's offense or New England's defense. I guess I'll probably just be siding with New England's defense on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a really tough spot. One guy I wanted to mention, or one situation I want to mention, was the Chiefs running backs, right? I don't know if they're going to lean on McCoy here, trying to figure out what's going to go on. But obviously, we have Damian Williams, who's questionable. We have Darrell Williams, who's on the IR. Could this be a week that they give Darwin Thompson more work, or do you think they lean on McCoy? What do you kind of think here?
Yeah, projecting Kansas City running backs has been tough. I actually played McCoy in cash last week, and I mean, it wasn't a total disaster, but it was not a good scene. I mean, just with how much they were using Darwin Thompson. I think Darwin Thompson is worth, some exposure in tournaments. I think just given the uncertainty with how the opportunity is going to shape out for Kansas City running backs, I don't know that I can really consider any of them in cash, but definitely think there's some tournament consideration for Thompson. I just kind of come back to, New England's just really tough against the running back position, both running the ball and pass catching. But it is price tag. I think it won't take a ton for Thompson to pay off. His price. I just feel like, I don't know, I might like similarly priced guy just in a better spot as, a guy like Patrick Laird or something. So might be somewhere where I'm more inclined to go than these cheap Kansas City running backs.
Yeah, for sure. Did you talk much about the Patriots side? Like Edelman's fine, but I just don't know what to do here. Like, is James White going to get the work? That's the problem. He got a ton of work last week. I know this is the time of year that they start to lean on him more and he starts to absolutely dominate. But I don't know what to do with the Patriots side much either.
Yeah, I think White's worth some consideration in tournaments just because he has pretty good upside for a running back at that price point with his involvement in the pass game. It's kind of just the story with the Patriots offense outside of Edelman is there's just a lot of uncertainty. I think there's a little bit of a higher floor for a guy like Devontae Freeman who's priced similarly to James White, or even, we didn't actually talk about Kenyon Drake, but he's, I think, at a pretty decent price point for Arizona. I feel like there's kind of higher floor plays around James White. His supreme usage in the pass game over any of those other running backs, though, is intriguing from a tournament standpoint. From a cash standpoint, Edelman, most kind of consistent role. Kansas City has been pretty tough against opposing wide receivers, but I don't think so tough that we're, kind of can't consider New England receivers. So, Edelman's kind of the guy I'd focus on. In the New England side, Tom Brady, the price is definitely intriguing. He's just has been so, ineffective recently. And I think Kansas City, could, put a decent amount of pressure on Brady, make things tough for him. So, not someone I'm super interested in cash.
Yeah, for a Patriots-Chiefs game on this kind of slate, it's weird. I just don't have a lot of interest in it. Very, very odd to think. But that's the slate, Stewart. That's what we got here. Listen, tell the people real quick, guys, like and subscribe. Would appreciate that if you enjoyed what we did here. We really, really would like to have you guys come back and, appreciate you guys, following along. Any final thoughts, Stewart? What do you kind of think of this slate overall? Because it's a weird one. It's definitely a different slate than I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I think, Christian McCaffrey is a guy who has kind of just shaped our lineup builds in previous weeks. And I think there feels like a real dearth of just comfortable value plays that allow you to easily get to McCaffrey. So I think just really either digging for that value and finding guys you like, or being okay with pulling off a McCaffrey just because there's a lack of value at the bottom is going to be a really important decision to make. And I'll probably continue to work through as the week progresses.
Yeah, I think the decision that's going to be made is whether to go all the way up for these guys or whether to go in that mid tier. That's going to be one of the conversations to have. But listen, we got it's only Friday morning. We got Friday injury reports coming out, and then Saturday, Schefter will send those late night tweets, and then Sunday we'll get all that news. So who knows what could happen with this slate? Who knows what can go down? But listen, guys, we got to get on out of here. Thanks a lot for joining us. For me, Travis Mangone, and for Stewart, we're out of here.